Welcome back, everybody. This is Down to Fly Creations. My name's Brett Downs, and today we are going to be tying the Brindle Shoot drag fly. This fly is a great fly to use here in Missoula, especially in the Montana area, and for any mayflies. It was originally created down the Bitterroot. This fly is a great imitation for all mahoganies and mayfly species. Here's a fish that I caught on a Brindle Shoot, my last dry fly fish of the season. Great cut bow, and if you guys want to get on fish like that too on the dry, this is a great pattern for it. So let's get into this time. Today we are using the FW501 traditional barbless dry fly hook by Ahrex. I prefer to fish barbless because we're taking a lot from the fishery, so we gotta protect them while we can. Let's go ahead and get this fly in the vise. And for thread we are using today is Danvilles 6/0 pre-wax thread. It's a great thread for dry flies. Since it does have that little pre-wax on it, it allows that dubbing to stick. We're going to go ahead and start our thread on the hook here. Snip that out. And for scissors we are using the Loon all-purpose scissors. Great scissors for in-hand tying. Getting that done. Once you start that thread on that hook, we're going to go ahead and start in by tying our tail of the fly. Today we are going to use Moose Body by Nature Spirit. Their hair is the best. And we're going to use deer hair scissors by Loon, which never use the same scissors for all-purpose and deer hair because hair in general will dull your scissors like crazy. So we're going to take probably a 1/4 of a pencil diameter and make sure you get that undercoat out. Put that here. And since this is such long hair today, we're going to go ahead and cut those tail fibers off into our little trash pile there. And then we're going to load them up into our stacker. Once you got those in there, we're going to go ahead and stack. Get those tips all aligned. Pull it out. It always helps to hold it at a little downwards of an angle so those don't slide and those tips stay aligned. And we're going to go ahead and measure it to the length of the hook. And we're going to transfer that measurement in our fingers here. And we're going to get our thread and then clockwise spin it so that way it gets a little bit tighter. And that way as you wrap, it'll kick that thread back. So that way you can just set it on the hook there and have your accurate measurement. And that way you can get a good wrap on top and build and tie those tail feathers in there. We're going to go ahead and bring this forward, covering those hairs like that. And once you're finished with that, we can go ahead and bring that thread back down to the tail. And next we're going to go into actually getting our post onto that fly. So let's go ahead and grab our posting material. Correct way to do it. We're going to go ahead and grab our parachute material here. I like to keep mine storage like this. We're going to use just EP trigger point. This is pre-treated with floatin, so that way it is the best parachute material in my opinion. But this is going to be in pale morning dun color. And let's go ahead and set that aside. And for this, we're going to grab just about double the size of that moose hair. We're going to build a good post on this fly. So go ahead and grab that out. I like to cut the whole thing off to keep the zip tie there. Push full. And all we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and take a little section here. Let's go ahead and cut that. And once we have this built up, it's a pretty simple tie from here. There's a couple different ways to do it, but my favorite is just folding this over that thread. And then as we do that, you can grab that and you can literally just slide it right on top of that fly there. And pull down. You want good tension so that way that is tight to the hook. And we're going to go do 3 securing wraps around that parachute there. Now from here, this is the tricky part of the fly. So everyone does it a little bit different. I don't think there's a correct way to do it. but we're going to go ahead and go behind. And once you go behind, you're going to switch your thread to a parallel level, and we're going to go ahead and start building that parachute. So we're going to be doing round wraps here. If it jumps off, that's okay, just keep the process going. To start moving up, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit looser wraps and start building up that material. As you keep building up, it is good to work back down. And what I say is it kind of saves your wraps there, so that way when it jumps off, you don't lose your whole parachute at the bottom. So let's go ahead and work back up. I want a good, probably 1/5 of an inch up that parachute. Wraps around the base as well, if needed. And then we'll go ahead and work down back to the tail of our fly. Now that we got it back down to the tail and we have our tail and our parachute on there, we're going to go ahead and move on to the dubbing. The one thing that makes this fly special is the dubbing mix. I got mine here at the Missoulian Angler in town, which is a great shop, so stop by if you're ever in Missoula. But the dubbing is a mix of quite a few different animals and dry fly and synthetic dubbing. It makes a really flashy kind of orange rusty color there. What we're going to do is you're going to want to grab a certain amount of dubbing, so when you let go of it, it kind of floats. If it doesn't float and drops straight down, that means you have too much dubbing. So we're going to go ahead and lay this out. Start building this onto thread. And as we're doing this, you're just going to be spinning it clockwise on that thread. Always go the same direction here. A nice, good dubbing loop on there. We're going to start this cutting up until the post. Back here. Once we're at this post, now is the time where we're going to tie in our hackling. So the hackle is a crucial part because this is going to be the main floating of your fly here. I'm going to go ahead and do it kind of like a parachute Adam style with red and then grizzly hackle. One thing that you will need when you tie dry flies is a hackle gauge. They have a couple different ones. Here's kind of a cheaper one for cabela's and stuff like that you can use, which is a great option I used for many years on this. And then since I had to get fancy with it, I got a hairline one that's a little bit more accurate. Really nice to have. So as we do this, we're going to lay our saddle on the table here. And all you're going to do is you're going to grab this hackle gauge, and as you grab these feathers, since we are tying a size 16, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab our hackle and put it around that center pin. And as we spin it, it'll actually jump. And those hackles, as you pull, will spread around, and you can see the exact measurement of the feather. That one was a little bit too big, so let's go ahead and find one a little smaller that's measuring out to 16, which is going to be this guy right here. So once we get one of those, we're going to go ahead and grab our grizzly and repeat the same process. Time lapse. Alrighty, so I prefer to use saddles just because you get a little bit more feathers, but a cape will give you. So once we go ahead and get these hackle fibers, we're going to set them both, and there's going to be a shiny side of the hackle feather, which is going to be the front, and then there's going to be a dull side, which I'll show you guys that now. Here's the front side, and then that dull side as well there. But we're going to go ahead and line them up so that they're both facing the same way, so both shiny sides out. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and pull these hackle down like that and strip those bottoms, so that way you're able to tie it in. So we're going to tie them into the front side on your side of the hook to there, so that way you can cover them up by the eye of the hook. And we're going to go ahead and work them down. And as we pull those up, we're going to do the same thing you did earlier with tying in that parachute. We're going to work those hackle feathers up. Once we get to the top there, you can go ahead and work those feathers down. I always like to pull them up like this as I wrap each wrap so that way they're not getting caught. And then after this, before we hackle those feathers down, we're going to go ahead and finish out the dubbing of our fly. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab that hack or that dubbing, make sure it floats on its way down. And then we're going to go ahead and spin that onto our thread here. And then work that dubbing to the eye of the hook. And then one wrap at the bottom of that post there, so that way we have our thread sitting there. Now the other thing about exposing those stems is it will also help it kick to the right side as you wrap that. What we want is we want the bottom side to be facing up, so that way those hackle fibers are going upwards, and that'll allow us to whip finish at the end a little bit easier. But as I do this, I'm going to hold this parachute post, and I'm going to go around. The one thing about this process is you're going to want to make sure you're holding that post and doing these wraps tight. If they're not tight, then your hackle will fall off your fly. I'm sure you guys have seen flies before where the hackle just spins off the post and then it's unfishable from there. So as I'm doing this, I'm wrapping these around here, slowly working down, doing a consistent wrap with both of them down that hook. So once I'm at the base here, I'm going to hold it on the near side of the hook to me. I'm going to go ahead and do one parallel wrap around, one underneath the feathers, because once it's there, you can go ahead and grab this fly and get a firm hold, and you can undo that and just rotate it. I wouldn't pull it out of the hook, but just rotate it downwards at an angle, and this will allow us to whip finish this fly a little easier. And after that, this fly is basically done. All we're going to need to do is trim this post and whip finish this. So as I whip finish this, I'm going to hold it at that parallel angle to that post. Create that forearm, your whip finish. Go ahead and do a 4-turn whip finish to start. Drop it on that near side. You want to make sure to hold that post and tighten it. And then we're going to go do one more whip finish to make sure it sits here. Alright, so once that whip finish is done, we're going to go ahead and get this back upright in our vise. And now it's just time to trim that post. So we're going to go ahead and pull this up. It helps to twist it a little bit and pull it straight up. And this is depending on what gear you're wanting. So if you're wanting that post a little bit higher and a little bit more visible, you can do that. If you're wanting it short, but go ahead and trim it. I always like to leave about a 1/4 inch of post exposed just so you can see it, especially if you're fishing with friends or beginners. Also out in the street. So once we cut that, you can go ahead and throw that in your trash pile, and that is the Brindle Shoot. It's a great fly, floats super well. I even take some light droppers off the back of it in bigger sizes. It's also a great lead fly if you're fishing smaller BWOs behind it or anything like that. That's a great fly for the Montana area and any mayfly species. So, thank you for joining me today. This was Down to Fly Creations. If you're curious on watching any more of my tying videos, feel free to click any which way. They'll be up there. And thank you guys so much for joining. We'll catch you in the next one. See ya.